Hello, Saturday, United States of America, and another one about US taxes, because I know it winds you up because you think you pay so much tax and other people in the world don't, presumably. Econ Browser gives us the highest quintile in 1980, over 150 grand, were paying just over 25%. Now it's just under 25%. So they've come on a little from just over 25 to just under 25 for the big boys, 150 grand and above. Below that, 100 grand used to pay just over 20, and now they pay 15. The middle quintile was just under 20, and now it's about 12. The big amount of quintile, I would think, 45 to 70 used to be 15, and now it's about 7.5. It's halved. And the lowest quintile up to that 45 grand used to be between 5 and 10%, and now is effectively nothing. If you don't like it, sort it out. Over the Atlantic to Europe, and one of the main reasons that the Eurozone is being ripped apart, because there is a core and there is a periphery. This is retail sales volumes going back to 2004, where you can see the core was going up and up to 2007, and then took 2008-9 took a saddle down, but is kind of getting its retail sales back on the up and away, although it's flattening off now. Similar from Italy and Spain, representing the periphery. They were on the up and up until 2007, but instead of getting it back together from 2010 onwards, they are plunging down and down. And it is this differential between the core and the periphery that is ripping the Eurozone apart. They're trying to sort it out with banking. The ECB not doing its best, but doing something. The excess reserves, you have to have a certain amount of obligatory reserves, and then which zero was paid on. Above that, they paid 0.25%. That has been taken off, and there are no interest rate paid on reserves anymore. Benici says the plunge in overnight deposits is encouraging. Now, the overnight deposits here means the excess reserves. The sharp drop in deposits parked by banks at the European Central Bank after it cut the interest rate on the facility is encouraging and could help increase bank lending to firms and consumers, ECB Governing Council member Joseph Benici said on Thursday. He's an ECB Council member and doesn't know how the banking system works. I went to the ECB's website, which is improving and improving very quickly. It's not as good as the Fed's, but it's not bad at all now. Look for the reserves. Now, up top left there, reserves required reserves 2008, 9, 10, 11 were about 200 and nothing much extra, 200 billion. Yeah. And then they dropped in 2012 to 100 billion. Those are the reserves that the banks had to hold at the central bank and have no interest paid on them. And anything above that was they had that interest rate, which has now been taken away. And why was that great drop down from 207 billion down to 103 billion, a halving at the turn of the year 11 to 2012? Highlighted at the bottom, source the ECB, number 1, a coefficient of 1% is applied as of the maintenance period beginning 18th of January 2012. A coefficient of 2% is applied to all previous maintenance periods. Translation: the reserve requirement, not the capital requirement, the reserve requirement, fractional reserve banking, in 2011 was 2%. In the ECB now, after 18th of January 2012, it is 1%. 1% reserve requirement. Over in the United Kingdom, percentage change from a year earlier of lending to households and I think that's private non-financial companies. And these two should not be lumped in. It's a banking con, in my opinion, that these two are lumped in together. Household details should not be bumped in with private non-financial companies, or what they're often called small and medium enterprises. You can see up to the Great Recession, it was increasing at a rate of 12% per year. Increased 12% a year, increased 12% a year, increased 12% a year. And now it's not increasing at all since 2009. It's maintaining just about those levels, but it's not increasing anymore. The lending to households and small and medium enterprises. So the Bank of England has come up with this scheme that they will swap from the banks assets such as loans and mortgages, take them onto the central bank's books for up to 4 years and give the banks cheap borrowing. And with this cheap borrowing they can lend to customers to give cheaper mortgages and to business loans, which will lead to higher investment, and apparently on the other side cheaper mortgages will lead to higher spending, and it'll all lead to growth in the economy. And this is all going to be generated by cheap borrowing by banks from the central bank. I think there's a lot of sorting out about how banks work needs still to be done by an awful lot of people, me included. But at least I'm trying. I'm not even sure some of these people, very important people in high banking and central banking circles, are making the effort at all. I think one day they really will have to. Bye.